Hi everyone, and I guess you're wondering what the hell that was recorded previously, but I'm going to talk you through the things that happened that particular night where we got that recording. It's the first piece of evidence that I'm actually giving at this stage. It's not the best evidence I've got, but it is a very, very, very useful bit of evidence in the sense that it portrays a different element to these people, these forest people, who I'm referring to at this location as Anglosasquatches. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of resistance about this. I mean, what the hell is a type of Sasquatch doing in the UK? They're here. I know they're here. I know a lot of people won't believe me, and I don't give a monkey what they think. It's what I believe, or know. I'm sorry, I don't believe, I know. I've had repeated, underline that, repeated contact with these forest people over the period of the last 12 months, and I've been holding back on all of this because, you know, I don't want the location discovered. Predominantly because you don't want anyone interfering with your research area. Two, I've got the utmost respect for these forest people, and if they're going to get to know you, they've got to know that you're non-threatening. Otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. They'll just go, disappear, and not show themselves. But by gradually, over a period of time, I'm building up a trust where they actually come fairly close. I'm talking within 50 feet. What? Knowingly within 50 feet. Okay. They've been a lot closer than that. I know they've been a lot closer to me than, dare I say, within 10 feet, and I've not been able to see them. Alright? It's crazy, I know, but there's a lot more to this story than I can talk about at the moment, and I think the whole idea of the Sasquatch being a flesh and blood creature, that is spot on. They definitely are flesh and blood. But regarding the other elements associated with them, that is of the paranormal kind, I'm going to have to hold tight on that for the time being, but leave the door open there. I know it's bad enough trying to appreciate there being a Sasquatch type being in the United Kingdom, but then to deal with something of the unknown is even more bizarre. But if you can leave the door open for this, then there will be further information coming out through me in later this year. But for the moment, this piece of evidence is the only evidence I'm giving at the moment. But I hope next week I might be able to include a video recording some of the other activity that we've had, but with a fellow colleague actually talking about it as well. So it's not just me, and I might even be able to get a third person included in the discussions. Have to wait and see about that. But yeah. Anyway, regarding this particular footage, as you can see or hear, something approached this particular spy camera. Now, the setup is when we go to a particular location at night, we don't go out looking for them. Don't bother wasting your time. If you know you've got a hot area where they are, let them come to you. Sit it out. Do things that will appeal to their curiosity. Now, we don't, and we never have done, any wood knocks or vocalizations in order to attract their attention. If they're interested, they'll come. If they're not, they'll go. But the way we've done it is we've done everything in a non-threatening way and to appeal to their curiosity, and over time hopefully building up that sort of trust element. It hasn't always been there, I can tell you now, and as I'm very fortunate because I've been very lucky on a couple of occasions. I've actually recorded things that would normally never be captured. I've only had 2 instances of potential, I don't think it was threatening behaviour, but potential threatening behaviour, but I put it down to other things, warnings, or we're here, and they're not happy about a certain element of investigation techniques I've been using. So I'm now pulling back from using technology to try and get the evidence I'm looking for, because I feel I've got all the evidence I can possibly gain at this stage, which I have to say is potentially far stronger than the majority of physical evidence that's been obtained in the US, but we'll have to wait and see about that. I'm still having difficulty trying to get stuff verified, but that's for the future, right? But this is at this stage I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snippet of information about certain activity that we had at the very start of our nighttime investigations. This is going back to July last year. I can tell you now that back in June I got the most important evidence so far, but following this we've had lots of contact, and I can only talk you through some of that contact because some of it has not been recorded in any shape or form, but the stuff that I have got recorded, some of it is exceptional. Okay, so let me talk about this particular night. We set up our usual spot. We go to the same location, which is at a distance from an area that we are calling the Goldilocks zone. Goldilocks zone, for reasons like there's life there, but we're still in search of it. Alright, so we know, or we feel, that they radiate out of a location at night, at dusk. They're static at this particular location, but they come out from this one area at night, and they walk into the usually it doesn't always happen. We've had so many times where it's been absolutely dead, nothing happening at all. So they don't always move off in a particular direction at night. They might go off in a different direction, but the nights that we have obtained contact, they seem to have come from one particular area. Okay, so we set up close by to a structure that we feel is a nest. I know it's... The problem we have is there's so many people that go out into the woods making dens, and the one thing that we did find was this particular nest type structure that looked very similar to one from America. For anyone actually making it and sleeping in it overnight, it would be very claustrophobic indeed. And when you go in there and you're surrounded by lots of bugs on the floor, it's not very nice. It's not very nice in there at all, and we don't feel it is any people responsible for that particular one. We find loads of huts and forest dens, things like that in this wood, but most of them you can discount as human. But this one we've had a lot of difficulty in confirming that, and we found no human debris inside, no cotton fibres or anything anything of any description, but we have found other interesting stuff, but that's for a later date. Anyway, we set up for the night nearby this particular nest, and on this occasion I put this little miniature spy camera out near the nest. It was about 10-15 feet away from the nest, positioned 5 feet off the ground, there or thereabouts, and it was covered in moss, masked in moss. So that was left, and then we went off in a completely different direction, and we put out another camera, and that's the one that recorded the footsteps, 10 minutes worth of footsteps, bipedal movement footsteps, and then the crystal clear wood on wood knock. Alright, so that was, we did, unfortunately the camera ran out at that point, but we did get I believe it was three wood knocks that night, very close, within 200 feet away from us. I would say very close. One of them was recorded, but the recording, I don't know what it is, but the recorders pick up sound okay, but in the wood at night when the air is so still, those wood knocks, when you hear them close by, because your senses are so focused on sound rather than sight, because you can't see anything in the dark, that really does send shivers down your spine when you know they're that close to you and you haven't got a clue where they're coming from. So yeah, so that other camera was positioned in a completely different direction, and behind us we had two other cameras. So basically we had a circle of recording material around us, completely around us. On this particular night we got movement from ahead of us, and that's when we were listening with the parabolic ear, the bionic ear. We were listening to that one as it was moving through the underbrush towards us, but we didn't hear the one that was coming from the side of us. The one that was ahead of us was about 10 to 11 o'clock position ahead of us, and the other one, which we didn't hear, that happened at the same time as the other one that was moving around, was in the 3 to 2 o'clock position, and it approached the spy camera, as you can hear, and you can hear footsteps, not very well, but you can definitely hear footsteps. And then at the time on the camera footage, I know it doesn't make sense because I didn't reset the time and dates on that, because I had problems with the time data file. It wouldn't accept when I was trying to save it, so I left it as it was. But immaterial of that, that was on the 9th of July. But at 7:25:06, okay, you can hear what I believe anyway, it's sniffing at the camera. So it was smelling the camera, and as you can tell, you have got a gradual increase in interference with the camera. It's not the only time we've had interference with our cameras. I can tell you now, we've had numerous times where cameras have failed, particularly the trail cameras. I've had lots of those fail, so I don't bother using them. I do use them for protection. I think there's a standing joke that your best method of protection from Bigfoot in the forest is a camera. So when we set up for the night, we put a trail camera behind us, looking behind us, as a means of deterrent from anything coming from behind us. But that doesn't make any difference. and in time I might be able to reveal a bit more about why I say that. But yeah, these forest beings, they're I don't know quite how to describe them, but they're non-threatening. They have the ability to rip you apart, or outrun you, do whatever they want to you, but they don't. They're very shy. They want to keep away from us. They keep their distance. But we're fortunate that we've been going back to the same location time and time again, and over time they have been approaching us, and we're on the verge of actually making contact. We were very close. We were very close previously, last autumn, to making actual contact, and I'll leave that for now. But in due course, we'll have a few stories to tell about the things that have happened to us. Okay, we haven't started the 2016 season until last week. We went once in January, but it was too damn cold for us doing a night investigation, so we bugged out on that one. Didn't have any activity. Last week, two of us went out on a night investigation again, and yeah, we had contact. So unusual contact, but still, it's more information that we're gaining every time we go. Alright, so this particular, yeah, the spy camera, the interference, the camera was functioning properly when I set it up, because the first recording was of me setting it up, and it continues for a couple of minutes whilst there's sound, and it was working perfectly. Alright, and what you see in this particular footage, there was no other sounds prior to that one, so there's nothing else to set the camera off in between me setting it up and this thing approaching, and there was about a 2-hour delay before we had that, an hour and a half. So that's exactly the time we had started getting contact ahead of us. Yeah, the interference, I don't know how to describe it, but certainly you can hear the being approach the camera, and then steadily the interference gets worse and worse and worse, to the point everything is blocked out, and you've got 10 minutes of it being blocked out, like you hear at the end of that, so there's no point in me showing you any extra to that. And then the camera goes off again and it is blocked out again for 10 minutes. I've sent the recording off to Australia for somebody to look at it, and he tried to do all sorts of miracle stuff using a breakdown of frequencies and things like that, and he said, no, you've been completely blocked. So there are sounds hidden behind the interference, but you can't make them out. He did seem to think there was potentially speech, but nothing more could be said about that, because it's not, you cannot make it out that well. But there was definitely sounds of an unknown nature going on behind the interference. So that was an awesome night, and it was one of our first nights doing night investigations. So we had one crystal clear wood knock recorded with one of these Anglosasquatches wandering around the wood ahead of us for 10 minutes before making the wood knock. At some point in the future, yes, I will be revealing that, but for me, I would like to keep back all of the evidence I've got to date, because if I start drip feeding it, it's going to lose its the gravity of it will be lost. So I have got this as a taster for things to come. Yes, it is the first recording of an Anglosasquatch, in my opinion, approaching a camera and sniffing it, and then using whatever powers they have. I don't know how you can do that, whether it's an ability to use ultrasound, infrasound, I do not know, but it was blocked. The funny thing is that the sound was blocked, but the camera itself was functioning, or appeared to be functioning, but there's no means for it to actually, it's not an infrared one, so it couldn't light up. I was using it for a sound activated piece of equipment, which did the trick, but unfortunately it lost so much valuable, potentially valuable evidence. But this is a start. I think everyone knows that, you know, when you go Bigfoot hunting, it is frustrating, and I think we've got more of an issue in the UK because everyone just doesn't believe that they are here. But I can tell you now, they are here, and I know they're all around the country as well. The fact that they could be here at this particular wood means that they can be in pretty much any wood large enough to for them to just to hide. But there's other factors involved with these beings that I don't think we'll, probably not in our lifetime anyway, get to fully understand, unless they want us to understand. And that's hopefully what I'm trying to do at the moment, is to give the trust for them to actually approach us and open up the communication. And I think we're getting there. There's certain things that have happened to me and my colleague that defy logic, but they're happening. And speaking to some other people from the States who've had similar experiences can relate to this as well. So so for the UK, wake up call. Yes, they are here. And this little buddy in front of me, he's animatronic. He does go off when it's activated. I don't know if it's sound or something, but it does move its arms and squeaks and makes chimp sounds. Yes, it's going to be one of our little attempts of potential communication. One of our experiments, should I say. But we'll have to wait and see. I've got lots of other things I'm trying out at the moment, and I'm hopeful that some of these will work as well. The few experiments that I've conducted so far, a few of them have paid off. I've got some serious evidence that you don't hear about very often in the States. So I've got some of that here in the UK, But whether people will believe me or not is another matter. But I don't care. I don't care. I know what I'm dealing with. And I'm being open as much as I can be at this stage to revealing some of that to everyone out there. I know there's a lot of people going out hunting for Bigfoot in the UK now, and I think other people can learn a few things from what I've been doing, and look for the evidence themselves, and hopefully, if they have good intentions, then I think they would stand a good chance of making contact. But I tell you now, when you're out in the middle of the forest and you hear those wood knocks and footsteps approaching you, boy, that really does freak you out. But I've got assurances that so far to date, touch wood, we've not had any negative things happen to us, and they have meant us no harm. And I know we're dealing with 8-footers, and in the next video I'll be revealing why we know we're dealing with an 8-footer. But for now, I'm going to leave it with this particular bit of footage confirming an Anglosasquatch approaching a camera, sniffing it, then using whatever powers they have available to them. Now, whether or not this is a camera malfunction, which I don't believe it is, because the camera is functioning perfectly beforehand and functioning perfectly afterwards, then I don't believe it's a failure of the camera itself. Then once you start to eradicate the impossible, well, not the impossible, but the problematic evidential things, then you're dealing with the potential impossible. So I do know from the people in the States that they have issues with their trail cameras, other cameras not functioning, lots of electrical things not functioning, and this is potentially what we have here is the first of its kind for the UK of an Anglosasquatch interfering with our technology here. But more to come on that in the future. Anyway, oh, just one last thing. The previous video that I did, the British Bigfoot, are they here in the UK or not? I did mention in the comments that there's a couple of sounds recorded in the video that are of definite interest, and I can give you the time of one of those pieces of sound material that is of interest, and that was at time 17:30. Alright, there's two in the video, very similar, and you notice that I did say a minute later, exactly a minute later, that I heard twig snaps. Now the first thing you hear in the forest, if you know that they're approaching you, is the twig snaps. Alright, not many creatures are that heavy enough to make, you know, really loud twig snaps for you to hear from a distance of a few hundred feet away. But I noticed that in the video, and a minute before that you've got a whistle, a whoop, like that. Now, why do I think that's not a bird? I don't know any birds in this country that make that sound. I could be mistaken. It's not an owl. I could be mistaken, but I'm not familiar with any birds that make that sound. Alright? Now, why do I pick up on that sound? Well, that sound is exactly the same sound that I had picked up back in June. I mean, I did that video in, I can't remember, was it October? I picked up that exact same sound several times in a video that I did in June. Initially I thought it was a cuckoo, but it's not a cuckoo. The nearest similar sound that I can find on YouTube was an orangutan whistling. It's not the same, but it's similar. Like that. And I had recorded that exact same sounds with definite, in my opinion, well, I know, definite contact. Alright, so 17:30 in that other video is when you can hear the sound, what I believe to be a whoop of an Anglosasquatch. Alright, so have another look at that video, and if you think it's a bird of some description, let me know. But as far as I'm aware, it's not. And what I do know is that those whoop sounds are associated with actual contact from a previous encounter that I had in June. Alright? And I didn't notice that in the video until quite later. And I thought about it and I said, well, that is just prior to the twig snaps. So during that video, you know, I did say that, I mean, Sasquatch Central, and I'll tell you now, they are in that area. Okay, they're definitely in that area. Then you get the twig snaps, and just before that, you've got the sound. So I think that they were communicating with each other, because I was very close to what I'm referring to as the Goldilocks zone. The Goldilocks zone is where I believe that they stay during the daytime, or hide out, and later on, when I reveal the most powerful bit of evidence I've got to date, I think people are just going to get blown away. So there's a lot more to come, but we'll just have to wait and see at the moment. But to start with, that is footage, sounds of an Anglosasquatch sniffing at a camera, walking towards it. Even you can hear it even touching the twigs that the camera was positioned on, just before it all gets completely blocked out. Alright, so it was definitely interested in that, and how they see in the dark so easily. They've got other powers. Smell might be one of them. You're just going and having a good old sniff at it. But I think they all must also pick up on electrical fields. How they do it, I don't know. But most cameras fail in trying to pick up these elusive creatures. Alright, well, I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed it. A bit of a long one, I know. But yeah, there's more to come. There's more to come. And for those people who've got a closed mind to this, okay, keep it that way. Doesn't bother me at all. I know what I'm dealing with, and judge for yourself. But the only way you're going to actually believe anything for real is by having encounters with these creatures yourself. People. I keep saying creatures, but no, people. They're definitely people. They're definitely intelligent, and they're definitely here in the UK. Alright, have a good day everyone. Leave it for now. Bye bye.